In this lesson, we will be learning how to identify the best summary of a nonfiction text. We will begin by discussing the differences between a good summary and a bad summary, and then I will walk you through identifying the best summary of a short text. First of all, a summary is an overview of the most important ideas in a text. All good summaries must include the main idea of each section of a text, and sometimes they'll include important details that relate to the main idea. A bad or incomplete summary will be missing important information and may even be missing information from an entire section of text. It might include distracting details or unimportant details. Now we're going to look at a short piece of text and identify the best out of 4 summaries. So I'm going to read watermelon seeds. The seeds. Watermelons grow in stages. A watermelon begins as a dark, flat seed. The seed germinates and begins to develop roots. Then a vine grows several feet and flowers begin to appear. Pollination. After flowers grow, insects such as bees pollinate the flowers. Pollen must be transferred to the stigmas of the flower for fruit to grow. When a bee visits many different flowers on the vine, it carries pollen from a male part of the flower to a female part of the flower. Once pollinated, the flower develops a small fruit. The fruit. After a while, the melon grows larger and larger. Seeds form inside the red, juicy part of the watermelon. When those seeds are planted, the life cycle begins again. Now, I know that a good summary has the main idea of each section, so to help myself out, I'm going to go back and make note of the big ideas in each section. So in this first section, we talk about it first off starts by saying that the watermelons grow in stages. It starts as a dark, flat seed, and then it germinates and begins to develop roots. The vine grows several feet and flowers begin to appear. So really, they are mostly talking about the first part of the stages. So the seed, the vine, and flowers. The next section is titled pollination. So I know that's a big thing that I'm going to have to include, just like the seeds. So we talk about bees pollinate the flowers, and we also talk about the flowers develop into a fruit after it's pollinated. And thirdly, we talk about the fruit. So I know that's a big idea that needs to be in there. And it talks about how the seeds form inside the red juicy part of the watermelon. And then when those seeds are planted, the life cycle begins again, so it starts over. When I add those main ideas up, it shows that throughout the whole text, we're looking at the life cycle of a watermelon plant. So I want to make sure that my summary doesn't leave out any important part of that cycle. Now let's look at our options for summaries. I'm going to read each summary and I'll decide whether or not it's good or bad. Start with A. The watermelon's life cycle begins as a dark seed. When the seed is germinated, it develops roots. Bees visit many different flowers to pollinate. Pollen transfers from plant to plant. Okay, right from the get-go, I know that this is an incomplete summary. It doesn't mention anything at all about the fruit growing from the flowers. So this is a bad summary because it's incomplete. Now let's look at B. The stages of the watermelon's life cycle begin with a germinated seed. Seeds form inside the juicy part of the fruit. The seeds are replanted to begin the cycle again. Again, this is an incomplete summary because it doesn't mention anything about pollination, and that's actually the title of one of my sections, so I know it's very important. So this is a bad summary. Now let's look at C. In the life cycle of the watermelon, bees carry pollen from flower to flower. The vines of a watermelon plant can grow several feet long. The mature plant develops a small melon. The melon grows larger and produces its own seeds. When those seeds are planted, the life cycle begins again. So here I notice it doesn't start at the beginning with the seed like the other summaries do. It starts with the pollination. So right from the start, I noticed that this may not be a good summary to choose. Additionally, this phrase right here the vines of a watermelon plant can grow several feet long. That seems like a distracting detail. It doesn't have anything to do really with the cycle because it's just talking about how long the vines are. So overall, because of the distracting details and the fact that it's missing a part, this is a bad summary. Now I'm going to look at D. There are several stages in the watermelon's life cycle. Seeds grow into vines and then flowers appear. Once pollinated, flowers develop into fruit, which then make new seeds. Once planted, the new seed begins the life cycle again. This sounds like a pretty good summary because it seems to include all of the important parts. But to help myself out, I want to go back and check and make sure that it includes the main ideas that I talked about. So here, I know that it needs to include the seeds, it needs to include the vine and the flowers, it needs to include pollination and then the flowers growing a fruit, and then it also needs to include where the seeds grow inside the fruit again. So I'm going to go back and check. Okay, so it says there's several stages of the watermelon's life cycle. Seeds grow into vines and flowers. Once pollinated, so here's talking about pollination, flowers develop into fruit, which make new seeds. So it does mention the seeds at the beginning and at the end. Once planted, the new seed begins the life cycle again. I think that adding in that the life cycle is happening is an important part because that's actually the main idea of the entire article that we read. So why is D the best summary? So to recap, I would say that it's the best summary because it includes the main idea of each section as we went back and checked, and it doesn't include any distracting details. Everything that was in there related directly to the main idea.